Merry Christmas, cinephiles. That's Cinephiles, not lovers of sin, but lovers of cinema. Patrick Coffin here with 3 Christmas classic recommendations. You've probably never heard of them. Maybe you've heard of one, and I'll give you a bonus. So these are my 3 lesser known Christmas classics that I know are going to become perennial favorites for you and yours, hopefully starting this Christmas. The first one is from the late 40s, and it stars actors you've never heard of, a lot of character actors. Some of them might be familiar from other films and TV shows. The only one that I recognized when I watched it for the first time was Alan Hale Jr. He's later known as Alan Hale. He dropped the junior part when his father passed away. Alan Hale later became very famous as the skipper from Gilligan's Island. He plays an army buddy of the male lead in this film. It's called It Happened on Fifth Avenue. And it is what do you say? It's to say that it's sweet and heartwarming is an understatement. It's a very well-written story of a homeless man who discovers that, Aloysius McKeever, his name is, and he discovers that the second richest man in the world, he learns that the Murphy Mansion in, I said it again, Connor. I'm just going to keep going here because only heaven's perfect. So he discovers the mansion owned by Michael O'Connor, and they're not in the house. The millionaire's family are gone. They spend their Christmas in Virginia. So this guy helps himself to the mansion. Every year, it's this little tradition he does. He goes through the back door and he finds a way to hack into past the security system. And of course, all the security systems from the late 40s they're so funny to see. Back then, it was probably super high tech. And then what happens? Well, he gets discovered because the 18-year-old daughter, played by Gail Storm, an actress you've never heard of, comes home. And she's upset with her father. They're having kind of a rift. And she falls for a guy named Jim. Now, Jim has been removed from his apartment, evicted, and it's an O'Connor-owned apartment. So he does not like this guy at all. He's the picture of, laissez-faire capitalist, kind of like a less grumpy version of Mr. Potter from It's a Wonderful Life. And then what happens is they get discovered. The gig is up for Aloysius McKeever, and Michael comes home, and the daughter is adamant that he not let on because they've taken, very good care of the house. And there's a subplot involving O'Connor's marriage. He's divorced his wife, and McKeever, the homeless guy, is kind of nudging them together, not knowing that they used to be married. So I won't give away much of the ending, except to say that a lot of the subplots come together. And it is a great, sweethearted, very apropos of Christmas. And I want to recommend that. That's my first movie. It Happened on Fifth Avenue. You're welcome. The second movie, it's an odd pick. I learned about this from my friend, Professor Anthony Esselin. And when he described it as the only tearjerker Christmas story, I thought, that sounds like a Debbie Downer. And it does deal with real emotion and sorrow and loss. That's all. I'm not going to tell you anything about what happens in the film, but it stars Cary Grant and the magnificent Irene Dunne, who later in life became a daily mass goer, a very holy, devout Catholic actress, Irene Dunne. And the movie is called Penny Serenade, and also in the 40s. Penny Serenade came to me in a way that I wasn't expecting. If you've lost a child, as I have, our daughter Naomi died in 2006 on the 29th of September. And it's a very rugged club you don't want to belong to. So there's a similar loss at the heart of Penny Serenade. So to me, it was personal, but I think you would like it even if you haven't had a close family loss like that. The movie Penny Serenade tracks their marriage using different albums. She puts an album on, and there's a musical setting, and it kind of represents the stages of their marriage. And at the end, they're convinced that, I will say one thing. They travel together to Japan. He's a journalist. He's trying to start a newspaper, played by Cary Grant. His name is Roger. And they go to Japan, and they're caught up in the 1923 earthquake. And she was pregnant at the time, and she lost the baby. And it looks like she's not going to have another chance. until they meet Beulah Bondi. Now, Beulah Bondi, if that sounds familiar, she played Jimmy Stewart's mother 4 different times in the movies throughout the years. She plays his mom, Ma Bailey, in It's a Wonderful Life. And she plays the broker of adoptions. And this movie is very real. I highly recommend it. It's not like Clap Happy. It's kind of the anti-White Christmas starring Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye. It's not that kind of a joyous Christmas movie, but the end is rich, satisfying, ironic. It is a feel-good movie, but there are tears along the way that kind of hit you by surprise because you're not expecting this kind of note of sorrow to enter into a Christmas movie. That's why it's one of my favorite lesser-known classics. Penny Serenade, starring Irene Dunne and Cary Grant. My third off the beaten track Christmas classic. Let me set it up this way. Do you know of a movie about a good man tempted to suicide on Christmas Eve by jumping off a high place and snow's falling? Sound familiar? It's directed by Frank Capra. No, I don't mean It's a Wonderful Life. I mean Meet John Doe, starring Gary Cooper and the magnificent Barbara Stanwyck. It's another Frank Capra movie about a good man tempted to suicide on a Christmas Eve with the snow falling, jumping from a high place. But this time, it's about a broken down baseball player named John Willoughby. And John Willoughby ambles into the office of Ann Mitchell, played by Barbara Stanwyck. And she's just lost her job because the uber capitalist D.B. Norton, played by Edward Arnold, takes over the newspaper and he cuts all the fat, so she loses her job. So she writes one more column about a man who's disgusted with the world and he's going to threaten to commit suicide by jumping off the city hall at midnight on Christmas Eve to protest the evils of this world. Of course, there is no John Doe. And the editor looks at it and he calls her back in. He says, wait a second, you telling me people will believe it? And she goes, you bet they will. So he publishes her last column and the place is flooded with phone calls, people pretending to be John Doe. So they create a character and they hold auditions. And in walks Gary Cooper. Gary Cooper is such an American icon of understated acting. Ann Mitchell, with her boss, create this character. She writes the words for him, and he goes on a lecture tour. And then he goes on a radio show. They finally reveal who he is. Now, he's participating in this deception because he's starting to fall for Ann Mitchell. He's starting to fall in love with her. And she's kind of bought by D.B. Norton. D.B. Norton keeps giving her raises. He doubles her salary. He buys her mink. He buys her jewelry. And the whole movie ends in the climax of the John Doe clubs meeting at this massive outdoor coliseum from all over the country based on the ideals of John Doe's speeches, spoken by Gary Cooper's character, John Doe, really John Willoughby, but written by Annie Mitchell. Kind of like a Cyrano de Bergerac kind of relationship. Well, then we learned that D.B. Norton actually wants to become president. He's a leftist dictator type, and he leverages his D.B. Norton troopers, and he owns the media, and he creates a mob against John Doe, and he exposes him as a phony. The last scene, while Annie Mitchell is at the end of her rope, she's suffering from a terrible flu. It is Christmas Eve, and John Doe does end up at the top of the city hall. Barbara Stanwyck gives a speech to him that could never be delivered today. It's impossible. It's explicitly Christian. There's a reference to the first John Doe 2,000 years ago. And she says to him, John, if it's worth dying for, it's worth living for. Now, that movie was written by a secular Jew named Robert Riskin. Riskin and Capra collaborated on 14 different films. And I think this was one of the last ones that they worked on together. They had a ridiculous falling out in life. But this film is explicitly Catholic. It's got despair. It's got hope. It has humor, it has romance, and it's shot through with the spirit of Christmas. I love this movie, directed by Frank Capra. It came out in 1941. It's the film that he did just before he went to World War II, where he became a colonel and made what are called war propaganda movies for the U.S. government called Why We Fight. And it wasn't until 1946, when he came back from the war, that he connected with another actor that he directed in 1938 named James Stewart. He starred in 2 films directed by Frank Capra. One, You Can't Take It With You in 1938, and the next year, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. But in Meet John Doe, the male lead is Gary Cooper, and he's just so strong and so understated in his kind of masculine presence. Quick personal sidebar. Another actor who plays John Willoughby's companion, kind of sidekick, is a homeless guy named the Colonel. That's played by actor Walter Brennan, one of the few actors to obtain 4 Oscars. Walter Brennan and Edward Arnold are both buried in the San Fernando Mission Cemetery within 200 yards. Easy golf swing from my daughter Naomi. So it just kind of means a lot that one of my absolute favorite Christmas movies is kind of providentially tied up with my own family. So there it is. Number 1, it happened on Fifth Avenue. Number 2, Penny Serenade. Number 3, Meet John Doe. And I won't go into the details, but I will mention the 4th bonus movie, also starring Barbara Stanwyck. Before I gave the title, I'll give you a quick 30-second anecdote from one of my favorite guests. He's the most prolific TV director in history. His name is Ralph Sinensky. Ralph has been directing TV since the 50s. He directed 2 episodes of the original Twilight Zone. He directed 2 episodes of Star Trek, Courtship of Eddie's Father, The Waltons, The Partridge Family, Mannix, and on and on and on. And he told me that when he directed Barbara Stanwyck on the the TV series, Big Valley, that was the one actress he was the most intimidated by. He said she walked onto the set and it was just breathtaking because he'd watched all her films since he was a little boy. So I can understand that. Barbara Stanwyck, I kind of wish people would watch more movies because younger audiences need to see how strong her acting chops were and how much she did with her eyes. So this number 4 bonus movie I'm going to recommend, it stars Barbara Stanwyck and Sydney Greenstreet. It's called Christmas in Connecticut. Trust me, goosebumpy good ending. Those are your 3, plus the 1 bonus Christmas classics off the beaten track. I'm Patrick Coffin. Check out patrickcoffin.media. Join True North. Keep in touch. Hit that smash and what it's called? No, not hit the smash. Hit the like button. That's it. I don't even subscribe to my own stuff, apparently. But if you like and subscribe, then you don't have to search for this stuff. This stuff comes to you and you don't have to fish around and pray to St. Anthony. It comes to you. And if you want to join True North, click that link and find out more. Merry Christmas.